Woo. Hey everybody, Jim Salmons here. Welcome to the Kayak Fishing Show live, as always, brought to you by Ballast Point Brewing Company. Today we're having a Fathom IPA. It's very hot here in San Diego again today, very windy. I don't know if you've paid any attention to that, but a lot of high winds, fires up in LA. Luckily, nothing down here in San Diego so far, so we're all good, but our best to anybody who is in those fire danger areas, and all you idiots who like to start fires, keep your frickin' lighter in your pants, huh? We don't need anybody starting a fire for their own enjoyment. So anyway, a couple of things before we get to our guest. First off, cheers. Happy Friday. I posted up this the other day. Got some new items because we are going to be starting to shoot some episodes really soon. So some new Seaguar fluorocarbon came in. Of course, love the new gold label, particularly for those line shy fish. It's a smaller diameter, so not only just fluorocarbon, but even smaller. So, those picky fish that want that light line, like the tuna out here that have only been hitting like 15 and 20 pound tests, that's a great one. If you haven't seen it, if you're used to seeing the Seaguar Fluoro Premier, they've changed the label on it now. It used to be blue. I guess that's so there is no confusion between the old blue label and the Premier. So now the Fluoro Premier has that lime green. It's also cool. This is in a 50-yard spool instead of the old smaller spool. So pretty stoked on that. The other thing I posted about that I wanted to share with you, I got a new paddle, and this is the Werner Cypress hooked edition. That's what has a little fishy on it. The cool thing about this foam core blade, so I mean, between the Callista and this one, there's really no paddle like them. Some people ask me why I switched over to the Cypress, because I historically have used the Callista. Let me see. Let me grab this other blade. So, drop my earphones. Very professional deal here. So here is the, God, I don't even have enough room to do this. Here is the Cypress blade, and this is the same blade as the Callista. This one, God, I can't even get far enough away to show this. The Kamano or Callista blade is much longer, narrower for a low angle paddler, which I am. But with the higher seats or stand-up paddling like we do with the Blue Sky and a lot of these wider boats, I wanted to go with more of a high-angle paddle. So for those boats, I now have the ideal paddle, and that is this Cypress. If you have not paddled with a Callista or the Cypress, there's no paddles that can touch them. I guarantee you, you will never paddle with a better paddle than these Werner paddles. I'm going to put my earplugs in correctly because they were backwards, and turn off my phone because it's buzzing over here. So my guest, honestly, in San Diego, he needs no introduction. This guy is, he's a legend in San Diego. He is the face of Catalina Offshore Products. Really the driving force behind him. He is the starter of Collaboration Kitchen, which we're going to talk about. The inventor of Uni Goop and Uni Butter, which is a fish attractant for your lures. He does so much charity work. He's one of the hardest working, busiest guys. He's probably been in every restaurant in San Diego. He is Tommy the Fish Monger, Tommy Gomes. Let's bring him on up here. My friend, Tommy Gomes. How are you, Tommy?
Finally made it.
How was that introduction?
That was good. You read it right off the list Rebecca sent you.
I wrote some other stuff.
There you go. Yeah.
But yeah, honestly, I put the comments there. Thankfully, you were brought to us with the help of Catalina Offshore, CDEC. I put the comments in the very beginning of this of everybody who has helped us. Uni Goop, Blue Seas Fabrication. Did I say that right?
Yeah. It's been a fun ride.
Yeah. And we both have that CDEC from Blue Seas on our boats. Amazing stuff. But you are kind of tied in with all these guys because everybody in this town respects you. I actually had a picture up and I accidentally dropped it, so now I can't bring it up. From back in the day, you working on a commercial boat. I mean, you've been in this industry basically your whole life, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's been a great life, you know. Brought up in a Portuguese tuna fishing family. I was lucky enough to fish with my uncles and my brothers and fish all over the world and work and run sport boats and get involved in the sport fishing industry. You know, I had a little bit of a break there in the 90s. Came back and started working at Catalina and started moving forward and making tracks and laying some road down, man, and seeing what's going on and, you know, talk about sustainable seafood, talk about what to do, utilization of a whole fish, and try and bring everybody together, you know, the sport fishing guys, the commercial guys, recreational guys. It's kind of cool being on the South Coast study region for the MLPA there when we were all going through that battle. Yeah, right? Remember that?
I have totally blocked all that out of my head.
Right? Yeah, I don't blame you, man. But, you know, we're still fishing. Everybody's still having fun. Don't really get outside the bay much anymore. I'm kind of locked into that South Bay of San Diego for some reason.
I was looking for you out there the other day. My wife and I were out on the bay, and I saw you had posted you were out there.
Yeah.
So we were kind of looking for you, but actually went up and said hello to somebody from a distance that I thought was you. And they're like, no, I'm not Tommy, because my eyes are so bad I couldn't really tell. I just saw a couple of guys on a small bass boat.
We're usually way in the back, and I got a Lund. I had Lund build a custom layout for my dad before my dad passed. He got sick and he couldn't stand up, so I kind of designed a Lund a certain way for older gentlemen to go fishing. And to this day, we're taking one of Ed Reese's fishing buddies with us still.
Oh, wow. And again, it's kind of a Southern California legend, old Ed Reese.
Yeah.
You can still see his articles in Pacific Coast Sports Fishing every week or every month.
Looking astern.
Right. Yeah. So, Tommy, first I want to check in with some people who have said hello. Egowitz, my good friend. So what you may not know, Tommy, is I know you are known in San Diego, but our show gets seen nationally and internationally. My buddy Egowitz right there is actually in Spain.
Nice.
So, hey, Egowitz, how you doing, man? Reginald, thanks for joining. Frog Lid. How's it going, man? Christian, love the show and love shore kayak fishing. Awesome, man. Dave Hansen, make sure you hold it the correct way. He's talking about my paddle because I always get on people for holding the paddle wrong.
I love Dave.
Michelle, how you doing?
Michelle works with me and has helped me out immensely throughout the last 8-9 years with Collaboration Kitchen and raising money for kids.
Oh, that's awesome. Tran.
No, Tran. Now I'm in trouble because that's my girlfriend out. She's turning a restaurant around out in St. Paul.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
And I mean, like I said, we can get into the whole restaurant stuff. I mean, like I said, you've probably been in every restaurant in San Diego.
There's some good ones. We're not that bad.
Jacques, how you doing?
That's my riding partner for motorcycles.
And Marie.
Just skip that one. Marie Daniels, just move to the next one. Don't worry about her.
Yeah, she says, hey there, Tommy Gomes. So anyway, Tommy, I mean, the reason I wanted to bring you on, actually, I mean, we've talked about you doing a show with us for quite a while, and things just never timed up. I mean, because you are so involved in the fishing industry here locally, your passion for sustainable fishing and fishery practices, your whole deal on utilizing different fish sources such as the opah, and I got to bring that one up because this video has been seen just a ton of times, but I'm going to bring it up anyway, and we won't show the whole thing. If I can get over here and start it.
it's a wonderful fish. It's a great species, completely underutilized like most fish in industrialized nations. So we really need to take not a quick look. We need to take a good hard look at what's going on with our oceans and our seafood.
Right. And like I said, I mean, I never thought of this fish. I always thought it was a cool looking fish, but I didn't know it as a food source. And then going down to Catalina, and you're always doing samples and demonstrations of different cooking techniques. I mean, if people haven't been to Catalina, if you're in San Diego and you haven't been to Catalina Offshore Products, you got to go in there. And believe me, it has come such a long way since when I first started going in there. Basically you were walking into a seafood market for restaurants. You had to put on your hairnet and you had to do all that closed-toed shoes.
Yeah, man.
And now it's really caters to not only the restaurants and every good restaurant in San Diego. And I must admit, because of you, if I go into a seafood place, because I catch fish, I don't often go out for seafood. But when I do, every single time I ask, where did you get this?
Yeah, because that's what you're supposed to do. Our foods, people hear me say this all the time, and our food sources are changing dramatically. Food's not what it used to be like when you and I were kids. And our population's growing, our planet's getting smaller, and we're looking at other ways to feed the masses. And that's what it is we have to feed the masses. And we have to ask ourselves, is it healthy? I mean, our cancer's up. We're fat, lethargic, diabetic, overweight, cancer's up. All of this stuff is up. So all these additives and all this food by better chemistry, is it really better for us? But we do need to feed the masses. So we need to start making a more conscious decision on what we're putting in your body. And what I mean by that is, I say this all the time, is if you had the brand new 2020 Corvette and you pull up to the gas station, especially here in Southern California, where it's almost $5 a gallon for 89 octane. You don't go and get that 89 octane to put in your new Corvette because it's going to run shitty. So stop putting shitty food in your body.
Right. And you look at some of the stuff. I mean, comparatively, like my wife, she loves to go to the Ranch 99. She likes to go to the Asian markets, which have some spectacular stuff.
Right.
But if you look at their seafood, after going into your place where everything, at Catalina Offshore, and I shouldn't say your place, but where you've been the face of, but comparatively speaking, the freshness, the nice clear eyes, and that's always a great indicator, right?
See, and we're used to it coming out of the water. Those of us that are fishing, whether it's freshwater, saltwater, rivers, streams, ponds, lakes, whatever it is, we're used to that fish coming out of the water, and we know what it's supposed to be like. In the seafood game, unfortunately, this stuff doesn't get better with age. There's no such thing as a 90-day dry-aged white sea bass. It just doesn't work. And so as that stuff starts, the minute it comes out of the water, that clock is ticking, that fish is deteriorating, and we got to move. You got to take care of it. You got to wash it. You got to pamper it. You got to take care of it. And every day you're losing traction. So it's kind of important to bring in the best quality and get it out to your customers, because then they're going to come back to you.
Right. And Catalina Offshore, I mean, they not only, and I was looking at the website, and I'll bring that up here in a minute as well. I mean, they ship all over, but you guys go to a great extent to make sure that is shipped properly. And I was seeing like abalone with oxygen and all kinds of stuff. I mean, we're shipping stuff all over the world here at Catalina. We have live farmed abalone coming out of Baja. They're little tiny things, they're maybe about that big around. They're absolutely beautiful. During the season, we have live almaebi, the sweet shrimp, and/or spotted prawns, better known as lingcod bait for guys like you and me. That was a treat going in there. My wife and I went in, and you handed us some of the fresh local spot prawns.
Yeah,
live. I mean, with the roe on them. I mean,
that roe is unbelievable. It's like a Starburst fruit chew just popping off in your mouth.
Absolutely amazing. And you know what, Tommy? I saw you posted something the other day, and you learn something all the time, and that's why I love following your posts. And I think you had shared a post from somebody else, and it was all about tuna in restaurants, where you will see it where it's that bright red kind of pink instead of what we're used to seeing when we cut it off a fish, where it's that almost burgundy. Can you touch on that a little bit so people understand, what the difference between what a fresh cut tuna should look like versus what you're seeing maybe in a restaurant or at a cheaper sushi restaurant that maybe isn't that?
Yeah, good seafood's not cheap. Cheap seafood's not good. There's no such thing as 50% off sushi. Something's wrong.
Right.
So when you run into the gas tuna, that pink tuna, it's one color. It looks beautiful, and it stays that color for 4, 5, 6 days or more in the refrigerator. Whereas you don't want that bright neon pink tuna because it's gassed. What you want a natural tuna, which is a deep burgundy color, and it changes. It gets darker and darker and darker as it gets older, and then all of a sudden it starts to turn brown. And just because it turns brown doesn't mean that it's a bad piece of fish. It's as brown as that cup cover. Hold up your beer cover. Yeah. So tuna gets that brown, and you can actually take that piece of tuna and gas it and turn it bright pink. Better food by science, right?
Right. So the thing is that pink tuna isn't necessarily old, but it's not necessarily fresh. You just can't tell.
Right. And so then they freeze it, they vacuum pack it, and then it goes out to grocery stores or lower in sushi bars. And, there's no flavor, there's no texture, there's no it's a piece of protein. I don't even know if I want to call it protein. It's a piece of once was a great piece of fish, and now it's just a gassed piece of frozen tuna. When there's other ways to cook that tuna, you can bake the tuna doesn't have to be deep, dark, burgundy red and beautiful and delicious looking in order to make it delicious tasting. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
No, yeah, it does.
But you can take a brown piece of tuna and you can bake it in the oven just like you would, say, a roast. If you got a 60-pound tuna and you take that top loin and you got where am I at? Right there. And let's say you got a 3-pound roast on it. Let's see. Hold on. Let me see if there we go. If we can get a 3-pound roast and slice it down the middle and pack it full of olive oil and garlic and some spices and put some potatoes and carrots, just like you would do a roast in the oven, then bake it. It's absolutely beautiful. Or you can steam it and make your own tuna salad. You don't necessarily need to make a bunch of canned tuna jars. When you're making canned tuna, you can take 2-3 pounds of it and steam it and go ahead and mix it up with the mayonnaise, or try and use a Japanese mayo like a Kewpie mayo. It's just better for you. I think it's better tasting as well.
That's interesting. And I mean, another, since we're talking tuna, you've got your face on some cans of tuna. That stuff is absolutely amazing, and particularly.
Hold on.
I will. Last time we were in, my wife and I picked up some of the smoked. It made a great dip.
There it is, right there.
There you go.
Yeah. So other than the label, this was a great can of tuna. Okay. San Diego, you've heard me talk about it. San Diego was once the big tuna capital of the world. It's now down in Malta, Ecuador, is the biggest tuna fleet in the world. A lot of our guys are down there running boats, but here in San Diego, everybody was here. Ralston Purina, AJ Hines, Checkerboard Square, Bumblebee, Starkiss, Top Wave. Everybody was here. There was over 100,000 jobs.
I remember driving down the 5 South when I was younger, and you'd go past. Was it Bumblebee that was down there? Down kind of IB.
Yeah.
And just like, man, you'd see the steam coming out of that place and the smell. And
smelled like money.
Yeah. But that, I mean, obviously that has changed a lot. I mean, the whole Point Loma area being the heart of tuna fishing, Shelter Island with that awesome tribute to tuna fisherman statue. I mean, it's a great part of it. And I mean, you saw it all. You know, with your dad, and
I was very blessed to be part of that. And here at Catalina, we have the retail shop, and it has a lot of the memorabilia in it. So when the old timers come in and the videos are playing and they see those old boats from the 20s and 30s and 40s, and they remember those boats, it's a special moment in history and time when we can talk to our old guys about how it used to be. And that's like us. We're going to be those guys. So.
Yeah. Well, I'll be talking about kayak fishing. And I always enjoy, whether it's on your Tommy the Fish Monger page or your own person, you post a lot of historic photos, a lot of the tuna industry. I always enjoy not only the photos, but your comments about them. So, kind of learn about that history. It's always been a lot of fun for me to look at those. Actually, one of the things that I always liked, and I'm sure you've seen it, was old Michael Folk's video, the tribute to tuna. If that thing's still around anywhere, if people want to know about the history of tuna fishing, that one was a pretty cool one.
I've actually got some of that original footage, and I've got footage from the late 20s and 30s all the way up to present day, old black and white. There's some seaplanes coming into San Diego and landing right out in front of where Shelter Island is now, and the planes are landing there, and there's the bait boats, the guys that were fishing from the racks with bamboo poles, they're hauling nets in right there and everything. It's super cool, and there's no skyline. And then later on, it was a couple decades later on, there's this huge building in the skyline, and you can't figure it out. And as the angle changes on the camera, you can figure out that this giant building downtown is actually the El Cortez Hotel.
I was going to say the El Cortez. My high school prom was at the El Cortez.
Oh, I got a better sunburn. You ready?
Yeah.
I used to play, I can't believe I'm going to say this. I used to play in a 120-piece accordion orchestra.
Accordion orchestra.
At the El Cortez Hotel when I was a little kid.
Oh, that's awesome.
Quiet, Rebecca.
And the hotel was new, right?
Yeah, brand new. Wow.
I all the photos I've ever seen of you were on seiners. Right? Did you ever do that jack pulling in the racks? Did you ever do that?
We did. My father made us all come up through the ranks, and so we had to make a couple trips with guys like Bobby Pringle and those old guys. And my dad and my uncles were all kind of the same. They made you know every job on the boat, from the engine room all the way up to the pilot house and everything in between. And you had to do a stint in the galley, meaning you had to make a trip on the boat as the galley cook so you could understand what that position actually entailed, because it's not just cooking. He's more like the mailman, and the post office is the pilot house, because the cook hears everything and he has to figure out what's important, what kind of mail is important to deliver to the pilot house, and which one is just bullshit that you don't have to worry about.
That's really interesting. I mean, and so important, and you just don't see that anymore. Like you said, guys want to start off as captain. They don't want to have to, start off scrubbing the deck.
Everybody wants to do captain shit until it's time to do captain shit. And then nobody wants to do it, Times are definitely changing. There's some good rules and regulations that are coming up as far as maritime goes on a global scale, so that's better for everybody involved. There's still none better than the American licensed captains. And their license is good all over the world, where it's not like that. If you were from, Panama or Ecuador or Southeast Asia, you can't run an American flag vessel as the captain, or you can't be the paper holder. So, you got to have an American paper holder on the boat. And if you have an American paper holder on a foreign boat, for some reason, your insurance is cheaper. What's that tell you?
Things are backwards. Things are backwards sometimes, man. We got a couple people want to say hello. Mike McKenna, how you doing, man?
Hey, Mike.
I don't know if you know this guy. I don't know what Klopwins. I guess he's trying to say clowns.
Yeah.
He obviously can't type.
Our buddy Ken. Our buddy.
Ken is awesome. And, of course, from Sea Deck and Blue Seas Fabrication, which did my kayak and our boats. Sir,
he's going to do my 55 Ford truck, the interior.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Very cool. I actually thought about doing it on the inside walls of my Sprinter.
Yes.
Just to keep, because it's one thin layer, so just give you that protection from storing stuff in there.
Yeah, and then it won't dent the outside of it.
Right. I mean, it's such great stuff. So like I said, Sir just saying hello from Ottawa. Egowitz again, very interesting speech. Tommy, Tommy has great speeches. He's very entertaining to listen to.
You got to make up for it because of my looks.
I got to find that picture of you from on the.
Is it? Am I standing on the back end of the boat in those super short dolphin shorts?
No, it's not that one. But you're
okay.
holding up a fish. But you had quite a bit of hair, a little more than you have now.
I got a 5 head now. I used to have a 4 head and a 3 head.
Hey, we've got a question actually from Richard Martin. What's the best way to keep fish fresh when doing multi-day kayak trips in Baja, etc.? Whole on ice in a kill bag or processed on the shore and vacuum sealed in the ice chest? How long will it last? Feel free to mention specific fish and how you want to eat it, like sheep's head or ceviche and blah, blah, blah.
You know, this is the way that the pongueros do it, and they've been doing it like this for years. You go ahead and gut it and gill and gut it. And because they don't have a lot of ice machines down there, they use the kelp. And the kelp actually reflects the heat from the sun. So it keeps it fresher, and then they just keep splashing water on it. But if you got ice, use that as well. And if there's newspapers, you can wrap it in a newspaper. Once it's gutted and gilled, wrap it in newspaper, go ahead and pack it down in ice. Just keep it out of the water because the newspaper will get wet and shred. Or you can wrap them in the newspaper and use the big kelp leaves. That stuff works well. I don't understand why more people don't use it.
Oh, we used to do that in our kayaks all the time. You catch a yellowtail and throw it on the back of your kayak and just cover it with kelp.
Pull them up.
Yeah. That works really well. But obviously for a multi-day, obviously if you can, once you're on shore, fillet it up, semi-vacuum pack it, even if it's under water pressure, works pretty well. Have a good cooler. And I will say, and I know you know this, I mean, any fish I catch, I bleed. If I'm keeping it, I bleed it.
Yeah, it's important to bleed your fish, and there's so much information out there. And I got to tell you that I'd say 90+% of the information that's out there on how to keep fish fresh is good information. Because it's funny, us outdoor people we're trying to preserve the stock. We're not trying to waste it, It's just really weird how we all bond together on a global scale when it comes to sport fishing, harvesting, and keeping care of that.
Well, yeah, and fishermen, hunters, they get hit the hardest by a lot of people who just don't know. We're the ones who actually love that resource, so we're the ones who use that resource, so we're the ones who want to take care of that resource. Sure, there are some bad apples out there, Mike Long, but that can ruin it for everybody. But
yeah, you're right. And so I was fishing in the South Bay again every Sunday, and I got a fish on the side, and my buddy Jim, Jim, we've been fishing together for years. Jim says, "Oh, you longed him." And I went, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, you Mike longed him," because I had snagged him in the side.
Anybody who isn't aware, look up Mike Long bass fishing, and that's all. You'll understand the rest of it. We you got a nice little heart, Tommy. She threw a heart up for you.
Oh, that's my girlfriend.
Ina Johansson is my very good friend. Her and her husband Ulf from Sweden.
Nice.
Michael Holnig, man with a pan, Ken. Yeah, of course. How you doing, Gene Price? Thanks for stopping by. And Joseph French, hi from Michigan.
Go Red Wings. Bring back the 90s.
And Rebecca's waving back at Ken, I assume.
Yeah.
So, Tommy, we talked a little bit about Catalina Offshore. You're also the driving force, the starter, I believe, of Collaboration Kitchen.
Yeah, that was
which I've been to several of those events, which are absolutely awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about Collaboration Kitchen?
So what it was I started Collaboration Kitchen because I wanted to teach people not to be scared of seafood. Seafood's pretty easy to cook once you start learning how to do it. I mean, it's relatively simple. I mean, if you and I can do it, anybody can do it,
Well, and that's it. It always amazes me when people go, I don't like fish. And most people I know that say they don't like fish have never had good fish. They've got the frozen block of cod, from Safeway that their mom soaked in milk or something. They've never had good fish, and it does make such a difference.
And so I kept bugging Dave Rudy, the founder and president of Catalina, man. I want to do these cooking classes. And finally he says, okay, you have 5 days to put it together. And I was like, 5 days? So I called in some marks. I called in a bunch of food writers. I got my buddy Ken involved. Rebecca's husband, got a couple more friends involved. Good friend of ours, Fossil, and he came in, and we had no clue what we were doing. We still don't, but it's working. So we did it, and it ran for 7-8 years. We raised a lot of money for kids and charitable donations in and around the city of San Diego. It was a great run. We're going to be bringing it back. Hopefully it's coming back next year. No, can't put it in concrete yet, but it's been talked about. So, it's going to be one of those things where we can bring 30, 40 people together, sell some tickets and raise some money. The quickest one we did was, the Baja food scene is huge. You got Javier Placencia down there. You got Drew Deckman, Diego Hernandez. You got, Flor Franco here in San Diego. Isabel Cruz. They're cranking out some great food. And long before that Baja scene popped up, we did a Collaboration Kitchen here, and 120 tickets sold out in 8 minutes. That was crazy.
That's amazing.
We had another one sell out in 5 minutes. And guys like, I know you're worldwide, but guys like Sam, the cooking guy, he comes in and does them for us. And, they sell out, and we raise a bunch of money, and we give away, $5,000 an event. And it's kind of cool.
No, they are. I mean, if they do come back, my wife and I have been to a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Even if I couldn't go, my wife and her sister would go. These things are educational. They're entertaining.
Yeah.
You leave there full.
Oh, yeah. You're not getting a burrito on the way home.
No, it's not like a little tiny sample. You get, it's a 10-course meal. You get so much food and so much education. And they are a great time. I really hope that those do come back.
Yeah, it's on the list. It didn't make the cutting room floor. It's still on the list.
This kind of brings up another thing. I know, like I said, we keep saying you've been the face of Catalina Offshore Products for such a long time, but you recently announced that you were kind of leaving the day-to-day operations to concentrate on your own brand, Tommy the Fish Monger, as well as Uni Butter and other projects. What actually are you doing, man? Can you even share? What is your grand plan here?
I was kind of hoping you'd tell me. No, we're still here. Dave and I are very good friends. I've been here for 15 years. just not going to be heavily involved in the day-to-day operations, still going to be a liaison, still going to, talk to the chefs and offer Fish 101 classes and things like that to educate and to promote Catalina. I will be bringing back Uni Butter and Uni Goop, which is kind of cool. As you know, the stuff actually does work, which is very fun to be able to put together a product in your own hometown that works. And we're going to offer events to where we can go in and we can talk to corporate offices and things like that about what's going on with seafood, maybe offer some cooking demos and some, light lunches and stuff like that, just to be able to get the word out. The best way that it was put to me was that with my knowledge and everything, I was kind of stuck in this fish bubble, in a fish bowl, and I need a bigger tank is what it is. Right?
Right. No,
so I need a bigger tank in order to educate, promote, and have fun and let people know how important it is to eat our local or regional seafood. We don't need to be eating this stuff that's being flown in from halfway around the world with no trace and trust. We don't know where it came from. We don't know how it was harvested. We don't know anything. We know that it's processed in some place on the other side of the world. We don't know if it's even really true, if it really is a sea bass, or the best one ever is if it's really a catfish. Well, of course it is. It's just a catfish raised in the Mekong Delta. Remember that little thing we had in the 60s and 70s over there, little southeast conflict, and that river wasn't the greatest, and it's still not the greatest as far as, being a clean water environment to be raising fish in, and yet we are, and we're shipping that stuff over here. And it's the same thing, the swai, the tilapia, the shrimp that's being farmed, raised all over the world. We don't need that, but we eat it because it's cheap. And it really amazes me that when you get down into it and you get into the game as deep as we are in the wholesale industry, that, the number one product sold to cruise lines is farmed shrimp. And that stuff's coming from faraway lands. And it's so cheap that you often wonder, I say it all the time, good seafood's not cheap, cheap seafood's not good. In this case, with cheap shrimp, trust me, Jim, somebody down the line has paid for that shrimp, whether it's enslaved labor or it's just a black marketed product or something like that. Somebody down the line has paid for that shrimp.
Right. You see it all the time and it blows me away. You go into a restaurant and their fish of the day is tilapia.
Yeah.
What's your feelings on tilapia? Do you have tilapia at Catalina Offshore?
No. No, we have one fillet that comes vacuum packed, and we know where it comes from, and it's a good product. One little fillet for sushi. People want to eat that stuff, No.
Just no.
I mean, that fish, it doesn't matter how you cook it, Jim. That fish will not even make a good turd.
Well, you think it would, because that's what it makes its living doing, is eating turds.
Oh, it'll go through you, but it's not a good turd. You know what I mean?
Well, this actually brings up another question from Fisherman 23. Tommy, do you think these ocean fish farms are effective, or what are your thoughts on farmed fish?
So farmed fish isn't going anywhere, bro. It's here. It's not going anywhere. So it's up to us as the human species to make sure that it's done right. So too big, we have problems. Too big, the fish are packed in these pens and they rub up against each other, and pretty soon they have lesions. So now we're going to pump them full of antibiotics that are not approved by the FDA. And then where are we going to ship them to? Good old USA.
Right.
And that stuff gets shipped up here. And then you have, what are they feeding them? Are they feeding them beef, chicken, and pork byproducts? Is there a pig blood in there? Because if you don't eat beef, chicken, or pork because of health or religious reasons, then Why are you eating that fish? That's just a couple of things. Now we have ocean acidification, with the fecal matter. But not only the fecal matter of the fish. What about the pinniped and the seal population and the bird population landing on the outer edge of the fish farms, and they're pooping in the water too, and all of that stuff sinks out. And now we're killing the bottom. Now we got soot on the bottom of the ocean, and then what grows in there are those big, giant, gnarly worms. And I wonder if you could pin those on a hook. Those big worms. Right? So
they gross me out.
Farmed fish is here to stay. There's some great farmed fish. One of them is Saiku salmon up in New Zealand. Some of the first green-rated salmon, Catalina Offshore. And I'm not saying this because what Catalina Offshore did. I'm saying it because it's the truth. We were the first ones to carry this Saiku salmon out of New Zealand, and then it got a green rating. So it's pretty cool. There is a lot of great farmed fish out there right here in our own hometown, Jim, over there where the Atlantis restaurant used to be, over there at SeaWorld. They're
right.
With they got the white sea bass, they got the halibut, they got the yellowtail in there. We ate some of the yellowtail, actually cut it up. And, when I was cutting it, there were certain things that I looked for, one being I want to see the fat on the blade. I don't want to see the oil. I want to see the fat. Fat is flavor, oil, not so much. You want a fatty fish as opposed to an oil fish. You want to see the density of the meat, not the density of the flake, but the meat itself. You want that the meat is in between the flakes. You want to see that. And then you want to see the silver skin that lays in between the flakes of meat, that muscle tissue and stuff. And then with the other one was the skin itself. Yellowtail's got a fairly thick skin. You know that.
Right.
You're not going to fry it up and make a chicharroni out of it or use it as a chip for ceviche like you can rock cod or white sea bass. But that farmed yellowtail that's coming out of that area here at where SeaWorld is a decent product, and they're doing it right. So now we're going to go all the way back to the question is, how many pounds of our bait fish does it take to make 1 pound? 10.
Right.
10. Okay. So even though we're creating jobs and I'm talking about, let's say Mag Bay, Turtle Bay area and that zone. Okay. You've been down there.
Mm-hmm.
Baja, Pacific side, Baja, middle of the area. You get those little purse seiners going in there. Yeah, they're working all year now. But they're catching sardines, they're catching the sours, they're catching mackerel, they're catching anchovies, they're putting them on the boat. And it's almost like the reduction fishing of the 70s, where we were turning everything into fertilizer. Oh, fish fertilizer, it's the greatest thing. And this is the same thing that's happening is we're actually pulverizing our bait fish, our intercoastal bait fish, say within the 500 fathom curve of Baja. Anything on the inside of that is just getting harvested to extinction. And now that's going to, it's going to disrupt the migration of that fish coming up the line.
Okay.
There's no more bait. They're going to go to the outside. They're going to swing to the outside. And then what happens out there is they get caught up on a fad or a kelp patty or a floating log. And now they're going to drift with that. And as the currents change, that fish, sooner or later, that whole migration pattern is going to change. I can get into it real heavy, but
that totally makes sense. And what I've always said is people don't seem to understand is you cannot remove the apex predators, the largest thing on the food chain, but you certainly can't remove the lowest thing on the food chain. Because it's
yeah. And so that brings me to this one is big fish eat the small fish. How come we don't eat the small fish? Why are we over harvesting these anchovies, sardines, and mackerel to grow bluefin tuna or another species to get shipped overseas? I mean, I'm sure you do this when you're making bait and you're catching greenback mackerel and you get a couple of those Spanish mackerel. I know I take the Spanish mackerel home because they're delicious. I'm not going to fish them.
Yeah, I don't. I still fish them because they still catch yellowtail and white sea bass. But
So
I've never actually eaten one, but I've heard a lot of people say as what we always call them, Spanish mackerel, but they're actually a jack mackerel.
Yeah, I've been going down to Shelter Island Pier just to go down there, hang out at Fathom's Bistro down there, just to watch what's going on. And I lost touch of the anglers out there that actually fish every day for substance.
Smelt.
The pier fishermen.
Yeah.
They've got their little bait net down there. They're throwing the breadcrumbs. The smelt come in. They're bringing it up. They got a bucket full of smelt. They got some mackerel in there. Grandpa's over at the water station, H&G in that fish. They got them stacked up like cordwood. I mean, it really gets you thinking, wow, that's cool stuff. And so let's say we go out and we're outside. It doesn't matter where you're fishing because we all catch those little 1.5 pounds, right? Pound and a quarter, half-pound fish, right? And you throw them over and they don't make it, but we should be eating those. We should learn how to eat and cook the whole fish. We should cook the whole fish. Utilization of the whole fish is very important. When we started selling yellowtail collars,
I learned that from you, Tommy.
We had to educate people on, all I really had to do was I got my buddy Ken, man with a pan. I go, hey man, let's do this. And he's like, okay. I got a couple other buddies, my buddy Chris Logan, very talented chef, started cooking these up, and I was showing people how to do it. And I'm like, this is the best part of the fish for me. I want you to try it. And that brings people together. See, that food brings people together. You know that. You fish all over the world. Yeah. Your show's well known all over the world. And everywhere you go, the first thing people offer you is food. It's the universal language of welcome, my friend. We love you. Have something to eat. Join us, right?
Right.
So if we can educate people on more seafood, good quality seafood, then things are going to get better. And if we can teach people how to utilize the whole fish, then we don't need to kill a whole bunch of fish. See, here in America, right. We want, first off, our food system sucks here. It just sucks. We're great, but we suck the best in some things. We want that 4-ounce piece of fish, bloodline out, skin off, no bones, and we don't want it to taste like fish. Go get a piece of chicken, right?
Right.
This fish is going to taste like fish, but it's not supposed to taste fishy. See? So we just got to stay in the forefront, Jim. And what I mean by I mean all of us, from Bill Dance to Dan Hernandez to you to me to Scott Lacet to all these guys that we know in the industry. We need to stay in the forefront to talk about how important that half-pound fish is, how important that 2-pound fish is, and move on and move forward and educate each other. And most importantly is educate the kids. We talked about it before the show. There's a whole new set of Gomes coming in this game, and it's super cool because I think they're phasing out the video games. It's kind of like the meme. We need more tackle boxes, not more Xboxes, and kids are starting to catch on to it.
Hey, actually, our buddy John Hopalong Cassidy says, how many jobs are made with the bluefin pens? Is there a worthwhile trade out if we impact our bait fish population?
I'm not really sure on the jobs. I know my dad and my uncle Johnny ran a purse seiner not that long ago, right? A couple of years before they both passed. And they were harvesting the bluefin. They had a quota that they were supposed to meet within 3 months, and it took those two guys 3 weeks. So that was the end of their season. And as far as the population of the bait fish being impacted, we just touched on that. I think that it's going to be devastating, that if it's 10 pounds of fish to make 1 pound of bait, then, things like that we need to seriously look out for.
No, I mean, I even saw it on a much smaller scale just down in the Sea of Cortez when I used to guide down there. The pongeros and the boats down there getting so much of the little sardinas, and then they start wondering, why aren't the rooster fish coming in near shore anymore? Because you removed all the bait in this area.
Right. See, it impacts the whole migratory zone of what's going on. Think of it like the buffalo, bro.
I know you were around when they were across all the plains here. So you would
kind of stepped right in.
Like hunting buffalo from horseback, Tommy.
Kind of stepped into that one, didn't I?
Hey, actually, right, it scrolled past a net trial. Is there an online resource so you can check out good farmed fish?
Yeah, there is, and I'm not 100% in agreement with everything they do, but Monterey Bay Aquarium has a list. Fish Watch has a list. You can Google the question and go on there and just kind of separate what's the good and what's the bad. And it's unfortunate that the guys that are doing it right are small. They don't have the $1 million package for PR like some of the bigger farms do. Some of the bigger farms have a lot of money for PR and marketing and stuff, so they put out these beautiful commercials or infomercials, if you will, for those of us in the industry. And when you get right down to the nitty gritty and you ask them, well, we'd like to know what you feed them. Oh, we don't want. No, that's a secret. We don't talk about that. Really? I don't want your fish. So we see a lot of it at the Boston Seafood Show, the North American Seafood Show. It's the largest seafood show for commercial fishermen. And there's row after row after row. And this is at the Boston Convention Center. It's huge, massive. There's row after row after row of all these foreign government subsidized fisheries. And you go over and you look and you see what they're eating. And it's like, well, who's buying this stuff? Well, other foreign countries are. See, here in America, we want a type of salmon. You want a sea bass. You want a halibut. You want swordfish. And you want a shrimp. Right? That's what you see on menus.
And mahi-mahi.
What about, mahi-mahi. What about all the rest? See? What about all the rest of the species? See, we don't think about that. Here in California, there's so much good fish, but we're being pushed to extinction. The commercial fishermen, they're being pushed to extinction. They are the endangered species. The recreational sport fishermen are on that list as well. Pretty soon, the only thing you're going to be able to take are photos. And we saw that happening during the MLPA. Yeah. It's kind of scary. We won't see it, but our kids will see it.
Right. So a couple things real quick. Joe said, Tommy, I found your video about how to cook yellowtail collar on the Sporting Chef YouTube page. And again, I mentioned it, but I've caught tons of yellowtail in my life. I mean, I love catching yellowtail, and I was a take the fillet off, do the backstrap, and hamachi, all that. Never touched a collar until I learned about it from you. Absolutely amazing. I caught a bluefin a couple weeks ago. The bluefin was ridiculous. I mean, so good. I mean, it's like now every fish is like, yeah, it is so amazingly good.
Every fish has it. That bone right here, that's hollow, that's got that most decadent piece of meat up in there. You pull that puppy out of there. Yeah. Good stuff.
Absolutely amazing. Tommy, we're running short on time, but I really want to touch on really quick because I know it is coming up. You're going to be pushing it out more. We haven't really touched much on Uni Butter. Can you just give us a quick, the history of it? What is it? Where are you pushing it? I mean, I see you're even wearing your Uni Butter shirt. So what is Uni Butter? What was your drive to get that going?
We made it from a waste product that was getting thrown away from the sea urchin. I figured out a way to turn it, dehydrate it, and turn it into something that will dissolve in an all-natural thickening agent. And then I add some other essential oils to it. That's all natural. It's 98% natural. I added DHT to it to retard the foam when I'm cooking it off and making everything dissolve and blend together. Still making it one bottle at a time. We're going to get some into your hands so you can give some to your listeners. 5 packs, 2 bottles per pack. So that'd be kind of cool. We're going to get it back out there on the store shelves. We kind of took a little bit of break, focused more on what's going on here at Catalina Offshore. And that's one of the reasons why we're taking a step back a little bit. I want to focus on that. I want to focus more on with Mike Lum and Scott Laseth and those guys at the Fred Hall show. Want to do some cooking demos up there, maybe do some corporate events as well, and just try and keep pushing the education side of it.
Awesome. So back to the Uni Butter real quick. I mean, it's a fish attractant. Put it on your soft plastics, particularly works well. Particularly if there's a slot in them at all. Lures with a slot for a fishing weedless hold it very well. Do many people use it freshwater?
Yeah, we're going to get to that. But what you do with this Uni Butter is you go ahead and you put it on your lure and you fire it out and you let that scent get into that zone and the tide take it and you just keep fishing it. You don't have to reapply it all the time, maybe 5 to 7 casts, depending on how warm the water is. Or if you're rolling through the grass will remove it, Funny you mentioned the freshwater. Was 5 years ago, I developed a freshwater largemouth bass just for the largemouth bass fishery here. And a couple of the guys that used it were amazed. Unfortunately, as you know, here in Southern California, thanks to Mike Long, trophy bigmouth bass is no joke. I mean, there's a big money here. Unfortunately, they were hitting that lure with such force that the treble hooks were getting stuck down in their gut. They weren't getting caught up here in the gill plate area and stuff. So kind of pulled it off and pulled it back a little bit and figured out a way to make it less. I know this is stupid, but to make it less of a reaction with the pheromones that kick off and to where the fish it's still going to hit it. It's just not going to hit it with such force. I don't want to kill a bunch of double-digit freshwater bass that get all wrapped up with treble hooks. That's not my game. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it totally does. I totally get that.
But we figured out a way to make here in Southern California. We figured out a way to make those largemouth bass go crazy.
Well, the calico bass and the spotted bay bass certainly love the stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember watching when you were just introducing it, watching the videos. You'd have a bag, your Uni Goop bag, and just the calicos going nuts over that thing.
Yeah, that was Dave Rudy. Dave Rudy, I was like, Dave, you got to just tie this on your anchor line when you go diving and video it. And he did. And they came out. It was like we used to say it all the time, popcorn in the park for pigeons, man. Put it in the water and here they come.
That is awesome. Tommy, I think we've got one more comment here. Let me take a look. Where was it? I eat a whole lot of walleye out of Erie, I can't even say that lake, and eat the collar every time. So walleye collar.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
Good stuff, man.
That's awesome. Tommy, 1 hour has flown by. Wow. I got to get you back on here again, man. This was super fun. I really appreciate it. And again, people who want to find you, it is Tommy the Fish Monger on Facebook. First off, Tommy, what exactly is a fishmonger?
If you look it up, it's about It's the wife that took care of the fish while the husband was out at sea. So I'm basically, I guess I'm a fish bitch. I don't know.
Well, you guys can find Tommy at Tommy the Fish Monger on Facebook. Also, CatalinaOP.com is Catalina Offshore Products. Like I said, when I can't catch my own fish, that's the only place I will buy fish.
Which is often.
Yeah. Oh, I set myself up on that one. Tommy, thanks so much, man. I really appreciate you being here, and I will see you soon, man. Hopefully out on the water.
All right, buddy. Take care. Say hi to the family. See you later.
I will. Take care. Well, everybody, I hope you enjoyed that show. I sure did. Tommy's a great guy, just a world of information. I highly encourage you to follow Tommy and see what he is up to with his Uni Goop and with everything else he's up to. I mean, just a great personality and a great resource. You know, and I'm always seeing him answer all the questions on Facebook that people throw out there to him. So, you know, definitely follow Tommy. Anyway, I hope you all have a good Friday and a good weekend. If you are going out on the water, please remember to wear your PFD and keep your paddle right side up. Take care.